I came to Florida 30 years ago, and I had retired from the New York City system, where I was a school administrator. I retired on the day I could. I owned the summer camp up there, knew every tree, knew every bush in that area, upstate New York. Anyway, I came down here, and the first place I went was a place called Fern Forest, which is in Broward County. I go to Broward County, I take a look at Fern Forest. I don't know what I'm looking at. And the people who come here have that same reaction. They say, oh, this is pretty. They walk through it. They learn nothing. They know nothing. Anyway, I decided I got a job teaching at Nova University. And I was teaching life science. And here I knew nothing about South Florida where I was working. So I started back at school. And I took courses there. I didn't like those courses. I went to Florida Atlantic, where I found a great professor who actually took you to different habitats and taught you about South Florida. He would take us, let's say, to the Intercoastal. We'd have to do the Stingray Shuffle. Well, let's face it, I was young then. I was in my late 50s and 60s. So I could do things like that. But anyway, the Stingray Shuffle, stingrays are used to being attacked from the top. So what you have to do is you drag your feet in the mud. And this way you kick them in the rear end and they go scuttling off. You just learn things like that. And if you step down on one, forget about it. You're in the hospital. So there you go. Anyway, the point is, we got it done, David. Thanks for coming. Thank you. Hey, listen, I sent for people that come here immediately. Now, anyway, I want to tell you something about Florida that I found out after 15 years of going to school after work. And I loved it because this place is the only Everglades in the world. Come in, come in. I like pretty young girls. Anyway, this is the only place in the world with an Everglades. Now, if you go and take the 25th degree line of latitude around the globe, you look along that latitude, every other landmass is a desert. The Sahara, the Gobi, the deserts of California and Mexico, all on that line of latitude, except for Florida, a peninsula going between two bodies of water, and that Gulf Stream which runs alongside, giving us a temperate tropical climate. There's no other place like it in the world. There's only one Everglades. Man got here, I'm talking about, well, the Indians were here first, but I'll tell you more about that on the trail, because what we've done to the Indians in this country is an abomination. But anyway, the Indians were here, but when the white man got here, his idea of the Everglades was, let's get rid of all this water on top of the land. We'll make it so we can plant corn, and boy, this will be great. Well, you know now, or you should know, that this was an impossible task. But every one of you who live here are living here because, come on in, I won't hurt you. You're living here because they have drained the water off the land, and they dug holes, big holes in the ground, where they took the land and raised it to the state specifications above flood level, and then they built your homes. Well, that hole that they dug became a lake. Well, you call it a lake, but it's really just a sump hole. And it really is for drainage, because it connects up to the canals and gets rid of any excess water. That's why I never bought on a lake, in quotes, for an extra $30,000. Well, the developers know what they're doing. They know how to skim you. Anyway, this is what Florida is. We have people coming in all over. They are non-productive as a rule. They are coming here for vacation land. Is that the truth? Am I lying? I mean, I've been non-productive here for a long time. But the point is that the people that are living here take from the land itself. they get rid of the water. And when you see, what they have to explain is that this refuge is a federal piece of land. And why it's here was to create a place where there's a refuge for animals and plants in the native environment. So when you go on the Marsh Trail, you see a grass-covered wetland. You see, in the distance, you'll see tree islands. You go out, you can look at 16 miles of the southern Everglades, the top of the southern Everglades, when you go down to the fishing pier. But when you come into a swamp, you're going into a tree-covered wetland. Only one other thing I have to explain, because all of you want to know what an 81-year-old with a New York accent is going to tell you about a swamp. But the point is, I went out and learned about it. You fellas didn't. And in about a half hour to an hour's time, I expect to tell you something about it. Now, I never have people sitting down, but you were all there and I see you waiting around, and I know some of you want to go on the swamp stroll. Some of you may be convinced by all my talking to go. I do know much about it. Anyway, we're going to now go to the lobby. We're going to meet there, and I'm going to take you on a stroll through. Don't put your hat on, it's not raining. But I just want to introduce you to the explorer who's taking you out. Now, when I put on this hat, suddenly I look like I know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, so let's go and visit a swamp.